ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls. Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on. We thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Today on Psychos and Sociopaths, we're going to go over the Ripper Crew, a.k.a. Chicago Reapers, was a satanic cult and organized crime group composed of a serial killers, cannibals, rapists, and necrophilia. Robin Getcht and his 3 associates, Edward Spencers, and brothers Andrew and Thomas I've tried to get this last name. Hold on. Let me get it. Kokoralees. When they were suspected in the disappearance of 17 women in Illinois between 1981 and 1982, as well as unrelated fatal shooting of a man in a random drive-by shooting. According to one detective who investigated the case, Gritch made Manson look like a Boy Scout. And looking at a lot of this stuff today on this episode, yes, Manson was a little girl compared to this guy and his associates. They pretty much were evil people. And this episode is not for the faint of heart. And I'll let you all know right now. I'll put it up front because I don't want anybody coming back and say, I can't believe you'd go over stuff like that. Listen, psychos and sociopaths, it's in the name. These people are psychos and they are sociopaths. They're evil people. And I will let you know right off the bat if something's just really, it took me, this is my 5th try to get this out in the open of these people. And this is not for the faint of heart. This really isn't. But let's go ahead and get us begin. Shout out for Toby, a coworker of mine that showed me these guys. He's into the serial killers and murder stuff. He likes to review them. He's not really one of those crazy people that goes out and does it, but he's really good person. And he showed me this. He's like, hey, I'm into serial killers and everything. And I just started listening to your stuff. And yes, you should go over these guys. They're really messed up. And I heard I was one of those ones that I was like getting around to it, but I just didn't. It was like, okay, I'll sketch out these guys. And yeah. So let's go ahead and go over the Reaper Crew. In a case that was all ghastly drama of a Hollywood production, a serial slayer, predictably dubbed Jack the Ripper by newsmen, was stalking young women in Chicago and endeavors, disregarding their mutilated corpses like so much cast-off rubbish. Homicide detectives had no inkling of the killer's motive or identity. They couldn't even manage to agree upon the body count. The speculation published daily in Chicago press was bad enough. The truth, when finally exposed, was definitely worse. On May 23rd, 1981, 28-year-old Leland Stanton was abducted by persons unknown from Elmhurst, a Chicago suburb. 10 days later, her mutilated body mainly her left breast, missing, was recovered from a field in Beulah Park, adjacent to the Rip Van Winkle Motel. The evidence suggested Stutton had been kidnapped by sadists, but police had nothing in the way of solid clues. A year would pass before a next acknowledged victim of the series of disappearances. On May 15th, 1982, 21-year-old Lorene Balrowski was scheduled to open an Elmhurst Realtors office where she worked. Employees turned up for work that morning, found the office locked. Borowski's shoes and scattered contents from her handbag strewn outside the door. Police were called at once, but 5 more months elapsed before a corpse was found. On October 10th, in the cemetery south of Viola Park, advanced decomposition, left the cause of death a mystery. 2 weeks later, on May 29th, it seems like it jumps around, but they didn't find the body until October 10th. So just if you're trying to keep up, I understand there's a couple of dates and everything on the research that they were going on, and I'm just doing that per victim. So if the dates don't seem like really right, you're not the only one. I'm doing the same thing. 2 weeks later, on May 29th, Shiyu Mek was reportedly missing from Hanover Park in Cook County. Her mutilated body recovered in Brigington on September 30th. On June 13th, prostitute Angel York was picked up by a John, which John's the person that rents out a prostitute. That's the only thing I didn't know. It sounds weird, but rents out a prostitute in a van, handcuffed. Her breasts were slashed open before she was dumped in the roadside alive. Description of her attacker had taken police nowhere, but on August 28th, when teenage hooker Sandra Delaware was found stabbed and strangled to death on the banks of Chicago River, her left breast was neatly amputated. Rose Davis, age 30, was identically conditioned when police found her corpse in Chicago Alley on September 8th. 3 days later, 42-year-old Carl Pappas, wife of Chicago Cubs pitcher, vanished without trace from the department store by Nemo, Wellington, Illinois. Detectives got a break they had been waiting for on October 6th. That morning, prostitute Beverly Washington, age 20, was found nude and savagely beside a Chicago railroad track. Her left breast had been severed, the right deepest slash, but she was breathing, and emergency treatment would save her life. Hours later, its seemingly unrelated incident, drug dealer Raphael Tornado was killed, a male companion wounded. When the occupants of the crash van peppered their phone booth with rifle fire. 2 weeks later, on October 20th, police arrested unemployed carpenter Robin Getcht, age 28, and charged him with a cruel assault on Beverly Washington. Also suspected of slashing prostitutes. Cynthia Smith, before she escaped. Also suspected of slashing prostitute Cynthia Smith before she escaped from his van. Getch was an odd character. Once accused of molesting his own younger sisters, authorities immediately linked him with the Reaper slayings, but they had no proof. He made bail on October 26th. Meanwhile, detectives had learned that Getch was one of the 4 men who rented adjacent rooms in the Van Park Rip Van Winkle Motel several months before Linda Sutton was murdered nearby. The manager remembered them as party animals, frequently bringing women to the rooms, and he surprised investigators with one further bit of information. The men had been some kind of cultists, perhaps devil worshippers. Two of the Rip Van Winkle tenants, brothers Thomas and Andrew Cornelius. See if I got that right. And yes, I'm so glad y'all can hear this.
Corley.
Cornelius. God, that name's gonna freak me out on this, mess me up the entire time. He had been kind enough to leave a forwarding address for any mail that he might receive. Police found 23-year-old Thomas at his home when they called, and his inconsistent answer earning him a trip downtown. The suspect promptly failed a polygraph examination, cracking under stiff interrogation to describe the satanic chapel and Gretz Upstell's bedroom, where captive women were tortured with knives and ice picks, gang raped, and finally sacrificed to Satan by members of a tiny cult, including Gretsch. I'm just going to go ahead and speak and spell this thing.
Corley.
Lee's brothers. 23 and also 23-year-old Edward Spencer. As described by the prisoner, cultic rituals included severing one or both breasts with a thin wire garrote. I'm speaking spelling. I know what it is.
Garrote.
Garrote. It's basically a tiny wire that most of the time it's used to strangle somebody. And the only reason why I know this is because the couple of episodes, the garrote is used a lot. Yeah, I have to defend myself. I don't know why I just do that. I automatically defend myself. I got a guilty conscience on a lot of stuff. Even though I haven't done anything, just have a guilty conscience. One of those nice people. I'm like, I know this because of this. I swear. Each taking communion by eating a piece of the flesh before the relic was considered to be Grut's trophy box. At one point, Corcoris told the victims he counted 15 breasts in the box. Some other victims had been murdered at the Rip Van Winkle out in Biela Park. He picked a snapshot of Laureline Borowski as the woman that he picked up with his brother for a one-way ride to the motel. Police has heard enough. Armed with a search and arrest warrant, they swept up Robert Getcht, Ed Spencer, and 20-year-old Andrew Corcoris on November 5th, lodging them in the jail under a $1 million bond. I guess they all got $1 million bonds. A search of Gret's apartment revealed a satanic chapel described by Tom Corcoris, and lawman came away with a rifle matching this recent tornado shooting. Satanic literature was also retrieved from the apartment occupied Andrew Corcoris. With their suspects in custody, authorities speculated that the gang might have murdered 18 women in as many months. Tom Corcoris was charged with slaying of Laureline Borowski on November 12th, formally indicated by a grand jury formally indicted by a grand jury 4 days later. Brother Andrew and Edward Spence were charged on November 14th with the rape and murder of victim Rose Davis. With the mangled body of 22-year-old Susan Baker was found in November 16th at a site where previous victims had been discarded. Police were worried that their other cult member might still be at large. No charges were filed in that case. However, authorities now connected Baker's death with their background of drugs and prostitution arrests in several states. Facing multiple charges of attempted murder and rape and aggravated battery, Robin Getcht was found mentally competent for the trial on March 2nd, 1983. His trial opened on September 20th, and Getch took the witness stand the next day, confessing to the attack on Beverly, Washington. Convicted on all counts, he received 120-year prison, which, in my opinion, he should have gotten the death penalty, but that's only me. I'm sorry. After reading a lot of this stuff, this is the condensed form. I chose the best one I could possibly find on these guys. And in my opinion, what they did to these people, both male and female, although the males got, no one deserves death, but the drive-by shooting of these the guys was a little bit nicer. What they did to the women, what they did to women is just, I want to throw up a little bit reading this. Honestly, it's just, it's grotesque, and it really is. What they really need to find a way to, if certain crimes like this and they're proven right and they committed, they went over the charges and they confessed to them, I honestly believe they should burn them at the stake. But that's just my opinion, and my opinion alone. But Tom Coqueries had suffered a charge of change of heart since confessing to the murders. Attorneys seeking to block the reading of his statement and forthcoming trials, but on December 4th, 1983, the confessions were admitted to evidence. Meanwhile, on April 2nd, 1984, Ed Spencer pleaded guilty to 4 counts of murder, including the victims Davis, Delaware, Maka, and Tornado. I'm going to get this right. Hold on. Tordu. I'm sorry. Sentenced to life on each count to receive an additional time on convictions for charges of rape, deviant sexual assault, and attempted murder. Tom Cochranese was convicted of Lorelei Borowski's murder on May 18th, 1984. While awaiting sentencing, he led police to a field where Carly Papas was allegedly buried, but searchers could not find the remains. On September 7th, the killer helpful attitude was rewarded with the sentencing of life imprisonment. 18 days later, Cochranese, his brother, and Ed Spencer were indicted for the murder of Leon Staunton. Andrew Cochranese and Spencer were also named the second indictment, covering the murder of Laureline Borowski. Sorry. On February 6, 1985, a statement from Andrew Cochranese was read to the jury in his trial for the Davis murder. In his confession, the defendant admitted that he was cruising. Okay. Cruising with his fellow cultures, Gretch and Spencer, when they kidnapped Davis, with Andrew stabbing her several times in the process. Convicted on February 11th, received his life sentence on March 18th. Cochranese was injected by lethal injection May 16th, 1999. Now, just to clarify real quick, the reason why it takes that long to give lethal injections, most states give 15 years to appeal the verdict and get it through. But anyways, a year later, on March 4th, 1986, Edward Spencer was convicted of murder. Leon Stutton, formerly sentenced to death on May 25th. Authorities declared that Spencer had agreed to testify against Sketch in this case, but at no further charges have been filed in Chicago Grimm's series of cannibal murders. Now, another thing about Robin Getz, apparently he was a former employee of John Wayne Gacy. Like I said, but that is pretty much it on this episode. So, but I'm not gonna lie on this case right here, and I'll just panel you. There's a lot worse things that I omitted on it. You can go to you can look up these guys yourself, but there's a lot they did. And the reason why I call them really, really, really sick individuals, they did a lot worse. And I did. I'll admit that a lot of stuff I admitted because they weren't really. I just didn't want to read that. It was horrible what they did in the first place. It's as I said, but the I can't even grasp the reasoning of doing stuff like this of evil acts, and they were evil acts. In I guess Robin Gripper or Robin Gibbs. He was the head leader. Now, the only one to actual die from lethal injection was Andrew Cooker-Lees. He died at 35. The rest of them are still alive. One's 69, the other one's 61, the other one's 62. So they're still living their life imprisonment, which they should have been killed off, honestly. But they pretty much got life imprisonment. Thomas Courtney's got his because he was helpful during the conviction. He was commuted to 70 years. So if he lives long enough to get out, he'll get out in 70 years. But it's cases like these that I do for the episodes. This is pretty much the understanding that these people are evil, and I go over them for entertainment value, and that's what it is, entertainment value. Because people are interested in murders and how they end up getting caught. But I'm just looking at the I'm repeating myself on this, but they're just evil people, and I really wish that this type of evil could just be snuffed out. But the only hope and shiny dreams, I guess. But that's the end of this episode of the Reaper Crew. Like, comment. How does anybody, if you actually finished listening to this, I mean, comment if you can, like it, 5 stars, blah blah blah. Give it to the beginning of the episode. But I just stuff like this, I just no bueno on my part. It's really sad that these people they're still in somewhat humanity. But I guess I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great, wonderful life. Don't get caught by these serial killers and run away.